Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Chetram Chitrajam Eva Cha Chetram Chitrayam Eva Cha Chetram Chitrayam Eva Cha Etad Veditum Ichami Etad Veditum Ichami Jnanam Nyayam Cha Keshava Jnanam Gneyam Cha Keshava Prakritim Purusam Chaiva Chetram Chitranameva Cha Etad Viditam Ichami Jnanam Jnayam Cha Keshava Prakritim Nature Purusham the enjoyer Cha also Eva certainly Chetram body Chetranam knower of the body Eva certainly Cha also Etat all this Veritum to understand Ichami I wish Jnanam knowledge Nayam the object of knowledge Cha also. Okay, so that's the second verse. So I'll just go through this again and we can repeat. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Chetram Chityanam Eva Cha Etad Veditum Ichami Jnanam Nyayam Cha Keshava. Anyone? Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Chetram Chitrajam Eva Cha Etad Viditum Ichami Jnanam Nyayam Cha Keshava. Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Chetram Chitrajam Eva Cha Etad Viditum Ichami Jnanam Cha Keshava. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kunteya Chetram Itya Bidiyate Itadyo Feti Tam Prahu Chetradnya iti tadvitaha. Keshava, O Krishna, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the personality of Godhead said, Idam, this, Shariram, body, Kundeya, O son of Kunti, Kshetram, the field, Iti, thus, Apidiyate, is called, Etat, this, Yaha, anyone, Veti, knows, Tam, him, Prabhu, is called, Kshetrajnaha, knower of the body, Iti, thus, Tetvidaha, one who knows. Just a footnote on the translation, the reason we're repeating the last two letters on, say, if you look at Vidaha, the last Sanskrit, Tat Vidaha. So Tat Vidaha, just a point on Sanskrit, the dot, diacritical mark under the H means that you replicate the sound before. So you repeat the sound. That's why we say things like, Prabhu, yeah, and Vidaha. So we repeat, that's what the pronunciation tip, okay, Sanskrit. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna said, O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the end of knowledge. The Blessed Lord then said, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. Purport. Arjuna was inquisitive about Prakriti, or nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field, Kshetrajna, its knower, and the knowledge and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all these, Krishna said that this body is called the field, and that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. That field of activity is the body. And what is the body? The body is made of senses. The conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification, he is offered a body or a field of activity. Therefore, the body is called Kshetra, or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. Now, the person who identifies himself with the body is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. It is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower, the body and the knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age, he undergoes so many changes of the body, and yet is still one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between the knower of the field of activities and the actual field of activities. The living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning, dehismim, that the living entity is within the body, and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age. And the person who owns the body knows that the body is changing. The owner is distinctly Kshetrajna. Sometimes we understand that I am happy, I am mad, I am a woman, I am a dog, I am a cat. These are the knowers. The knower is different from the field. Although we use many articles, our clothes, etc., we know that we are different from the things used. Similarly, we also understand by a little contemplation that we are different from the body. In the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the knower of the body, the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6 chapters of the Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. The superior position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the subordinate position of the individual soul are definitely defined. Definitely, I think it's supposed to be definitively, anyway, it doesn't matter, defined in these chapters. The living entities are subordinate under all circumstances, but in their forgetfulness they are suffering. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities, as the distressed, those in want of money, the inquisitives, and those in search of knowledge. That is also described. Now, starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with material nature, how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and the discharge of devotional service are explained, although the living entity is completely different from the material body, is somehow becomes related. This is also explained. Omigyanatimirandasya ganagana shalakya chakshu aminitam yena tasmai shri gurve namah shri chaitanyam nobishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam buddhagaramayam tadadi swabadandakam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very nice verse in terms of giving a tremendous overview of the Krishna conscious philosophy. In that it defines the living entity or quantifies the living entity as the knower who is in or has custody of a material body, which is referred to as a field of activities. That, of course, is predetermined by the karma of that living entity prior to obtaining that material body. The identification of matter as oneself is quite simply one of the main problems in the material world, which is creating most of the disasters and catastrophes. In that this supposed knowledge is based on illusion, in that the knower is identifying with his body as belonging to a particular family, a particular community, a particular race, a particular country, and due to that identification of that physical designation, so many things are extrapolated upon that in terms of loyalty to a certain group, a certain tribe, or a certain country, based on this supposed knowledge, which is actually nescience. As explained in the Bhagavatam, that if one who relates to kinfolk and the land of their birth is considered no more intelligent than an ass. Yet this compulsion to identify with a nation is extremely prevalent, particularly in modern times, over the past 200 years since nation states started really gaining momentum. Even Germany was not a state, I think, until 1871, was it? Or was it 67? After Otto von Bismarck. So prior to that, it was principalities, and prior to that, it was other kingdoms, going all the way back to Maharaj Pariksit 5,000 years ago. So the notion of the nation state is a relatively new phenomenon, and this is also referred to as geopolitics, geographic politics. But if we analyze it, it's actually a very arbitrary phenomenon, and it's bedeviled with a great deal of hypocrisy in it, because this political designation does not always hold weight. It does not always work out how it's supposed to work out, simply because there'll be conflicts in the Constitution, such as the American Constitution, which tried to delineate or to define the idea of what is man, what is property, and what is his relationship or her relationship to God, by stating that all men are created equal. Yet nowadays this has created a great deal of hypocrisy and sources of quarrel, in that there are so many racial disputes based on prejudice or perceived prejudice that's now occurring in the States. So this is due to this ambiguous idea of what equality is and what the knower is. So in the American Constitution, they say that all men are created equal. Well, actually, it was the Declaration of Independence, but anyway, which was later became the Constitution. But the declaration of that all men are created equal has been rejected by many people in society because they see, one, that this doesn't really apply on a day-to-day scale, and that there is still this racism or the appearance of racism or the imagining of racism, whichever way you want to look at it, because it's based on ignorance. The reality is, the harsh reality is that there's only spiritual equality. So spiritually we're equal because we are all part and parcel of Krishna. But we are a minute form, so we are just a drop compared to the ocean. But that being said, Krishna is superior and separate personality. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, that everything comes from Krishna, the demigods, the planets, everything. So we may have these qualities qualitatively equal to Krishna, but Krishna has it in inconceivable abundance. That being said, all parts, aham savasya prabhavo, everything emanates from Krishna. So therefore, on a spiritual platform, we are all equal. And we are all prakriti too, we're actually all female. So we are equal part and parcels of Krishna. That being said, the advanced spiritualists obviously deserve more respect in terms of the diksha, the instruction that they can give. So within the material world, it's impossible to say that everyone's equal if we're all born at different times with different amounts of wealth, with different circumstances. If I'm born in a very low economically developed country, yes, there might be some spiritualism there, or it might be equal to a wealthy country. But certainly that cannot be considered equal. So it's a very popular belief nowadays, and this is sold all around the world, marketed. Even my brother, he does internet marketing, and he's saying, no, it's just mindset. You've just got to set your mind to it. Anything's possible, and people love it. They lap it up. They don't really want to hear, no, actually your karma's predetermined, and everyone can't be a billionaire because it's a zero-sum game. So it's impossible, you know. And they say, no, there's abundance. We can produce more. And it's possible with some things, but really it's only possible with spiritual things. With spiritual things, it's unlimited. There's unlimited potential from the spiritual side, but the cheaters, they just want to sell their product, sell their videos, sell their websites, sell their blogs. So they propagate this Mayavadi nihilism, and this is a fact. It's like, I remember when I first, just to digress a little, when I first joined the temple, and you're reading Bhagavad Gita, there's so many references to Mayavadi, right? So Mayavadi means that we're all Krishna. We all become Krishna. But if we're Krishna, then why are we suffering? And if we're Krishna, then how we forget? It's like, I don't know. It's like they say you're like a crazy man walking down Beverly Hills. You just forgot where you put your keys to the mansion. You know, so it's just... So anyway, this is a nonsense philosophy. But I used to think, well, where are these Mayavadis? Well, I'm not seeing these Mayavadis. I'm not going down the main street of in an Australian city in Melbourne, and then, you know, I'm seeing a Ekadanda, you know, Mayavadi sannyas. It doesn't happen every day, you know. So I'm thinking, where is this Mayavadi philosophy? Well, here it is. Mayavadi philosophy is the idea of forget about God, don't worry, it's just what you create in your mind. It's just being really determined, really. And it has some appeal because there's elements of austerity to it. But just because there's tapasya doesn't mean it's a bona fide spiritual path. It just means you're going to get more power from it. Isn't it? So it's like that in that if you get up early, if you're disciplined, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, as Prabhupada even cited this. And this is true. This is true. So that's why it has appeal, because you can argue, well, there is some truth to it with the mindset that if you undergo austerities, you will get more and more and more. But the reality is, generally speaking, yes, but the reality is it's all controlled by Krishna. You cannot increase your fortune. And if you're a devotee, you can count on it being reduced. So in terms of your material fortune. So because in Bhagavatam, Krishna says, if he is particularly disposed towards someone, then he will actually take away their wealth to help them. But he won't do this to a kami usually, because they'll just be completely bewildered. They'll just be, whereas at least the devotee knows, okay, Krishna's taking this away at this time. Maybe I need to focus. Maybe I need to focus a little more. So this is really you put this verse, combine it with Ishopanishad, verse number 1, about people taking more than they need. So Bjorn Prabhu is learning this verse right now. Yeah. Wie lautet das Vers? Atya? Perfect. So Atyahara is Prabhuji? Yeah, so this applies to this is actually from the Upadeshamrita for devotees, but it actually applies to everyone, because over-collecting is detrimental to spiritual life. Yes, it's possible to be a billionaire and a devotee, but one has to be extremely advanced. Because the identification, and I think Prabhu was talking about this yesterday. It's just such a salient point. It's just such a big point about Govinda Dev was saying that, was a billionaire, did I understand it right? The billionaire who he had 20 billion and then he lost 10 billion and then he jumped in front of a train? Is that what he said? 50%. He lost 50%. He's still got 10 billion, he still kills himself. So this is madness. That's just complete madness. It's complete madness. But it's the identification so strong. I mean, we're seeing this. We're at such a precarious point in history right now with this war that's raging. Just 1,000 kilometers, 2,000? It's about 1,500 max, 15, just over there, just to the east. Yeah, just raging on the precipice of nuclear disaster. Anything could happen. And this is all due, this can all be traced back to this ignorance. To this ignorance, is that Putin identifies with Ukraine. This is part of the mother country. This is our country. And the Ukrainians are saying, what are you talking about? Ukraine was here hundreds of years before. We had a main city before even Moscow existed. So this combination of tightly identifying with the former Soviet glory, with this former greatness, it's like, and the fear that they are losing property which they believe belongs to that identification, that pain is too much, so we'd rather sacrifice our own children than lose this country, lose this land. So this is arse intelligence. This is the intelligence of an arse, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So why is this done? Why, the question should be asked, why do we identify? Why do we identify? If this causes so much problems and pain, why do we identify? Well, I think one of the big reasons is ahankara, of course. Ahankara. So it's good for my ego to identify with a strong nation. So that makes me feel somehow better. It's like identifying with a football team. If you identify with a football team, there's great pain when they win, and there's great joy when great pain when they lose, great joy when they win. So this is called jingoism, right? Jingoism, your tribe. But the next step from that is your state, your Bundesstaat, whatever, and then the next one is your country. So it appeals to people because it gives them a feeling of belonging, and it gives them a feeling of superiority occasionally when they win medals at the Olympics or they win other football matches. But actually, it's all based on ignorance. It's all based. Najayate mriyate vakarichin nayambutva bhavitava nabuyaha ajoni jashashvatoyam purano nyahanyate hanyamane saridal. For the soul there is neither birth or death at any time. It is unborn, ever-existing, eternal. It is not slain when the body is slain. It's not. So this is just one episode, one of a 20 of 100 seried biography. Imagine 20 different seasons, 200 different seasons, and this is just one episode. So, happened to be born in Germany, happened to be born in Ukraine, happened to be born in Russia. But spiritually we're the same, and we know this is just material circumstance. Krishna consciousness is the only philosophical solution where you can get people from all parts of the world who are devotees, and they will get along. Any other method that's proposed by materialists is completely artificial, and it never actually works. What has the United Nations done? So Prabhupada said the United Nations are just of barking dogs. They're just barking. They haven't been able to solve anything. So we're still at this problem that we had, which we've now had for decades and decades, with this fear of war between Russia and the United States. So this is the situation we're in. That even in World War I, people were more than willing to. They were so chauvinistic for their country. They were more than willing. They identified so strongly with it. They were more than willing just to risk their lives for something completely impermanent. So heavy was the indoctrination. So heavy was the conditioning. You could say, oh, they were just silly, but really the conditioning, we may have acted exactly the same. The conditioning is so strong. The propaganda is so strong. So just through association, you will take on that mindset. You will take on that mentality. So this is the incredible mercy of Srila Prabhupada, is that through the blazing torch night of knowledge, he has brought this to us. Prior to that, we had glimpses coming through the Bible and other sacred texts, but really there's nothing that compares to the brilliance of what Prabhupada has provided us with. Not only the knowledge to understand the truth as it is, but also the means for escaping the tabernacle and the entanglement of the material world. Tadvidi pranipatena paritasena sevaya. So by surrendering to Param Guru Srila Prabhupada and following rigidly the program that he has enunciated or the rules of the house, if you will, of ISKCON, then he has literally created a world in which the whole world can live. So this is now a world of 8 billion people. So this is it really is the only solution. There is no other solution. The karmic, the vikarma from slaying so many animals over and over and over is building. It's building. They can't escape it. There's nothing that the supposed experts in the world can do to stop what is coming. There's nothing they can do. And some of them are happily trying to bring this destruction in, because that's their demonic nature. So there is not enough for everyone to have what they want under the Mayavadi notion of its mindset. You just got to go after it. You just got to work hard. You just got to. I mean, this is just adding fuel to the flames of people of greed, of ambition, of envy. Kama esha, kro esha, rajagun samudbhava. This is all mode of passion. Rajagun samudbhava. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of the mode of passion. It's all devouring. Dusparena lenicha is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world. And if you look outside or any of the communications, all the conditioning is encouraging people to go more in the mode of passion, more in the mode of ignorance, and pushing them more and more away from Krishna. So the problem is that now it's leading to real problems. This phony solution, this phony spiritualism that they're pushing on people, is if you just be politically correct, if you just be this way, then we can really solve the problems of the world. Well, we're clearly seeing they're not. They're not. That this is like in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna is talking about so many reasons why he wouldn't fight. But what was that? It was ultimately false compassion. So anything that's not Krishna consciousness is cheating. So it either appears to be compassionate, or it appears to be disciplined, or it appears to be this or that. But ultimately, it's cheating because it's taking people away from Krishna. Anything that takes people away from Krishna is cheating. So the illusion that Arjuna was under was this false compassion. So there's only rules of the state. If someone kills, for instance, then they have to be killed. That's because otherwise they suffer that in the next lifetime. The rules of ISKCON are already set up by Prabhupada, by the Acharya. If we try to stray away from them, or change them, or reinvent them, then it's a very dangerous proposition. It's a very dangerous proposition. Because this is Prabhupada's Swarup. Prabhupada's Swarup is Acharya of ISKCON for the next 10,000 years. So sometimes it can cross over to criticism of the society or Prabhupada, or I just think that's very, very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to say, oh, Prabhupada grew up in Bengal at the turn of the last century, and therefore his position on women was not quite as enlightened, or sometimes people will speak like this. But actually it's aparad. To speak like that's aparad. It's to say that Prabhupada was under illusion, or that he made a mistake, or there was cheating. So it's actually aparad. Prabhupada made the combination. He understood the position of women in the West, that they were mixing. That wasn't going to change. He created everything to the standard that would be tenable over time. And even now it's still considered extreme, but consider temples with just brahmacharis, how that would be viewed. So the point is, I guess I'm touching on things with regard to ISKCON, is sometimes we might see that, well, isn't there a more compassionate way of approaching things or approaching people? Well, can't we water down the process just a little? Well, we can't. This is the standard set by Prabhupada. And so it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to alter anything the Acharya has created, which has been directly ordained by Krishna. Ultimately, that is their position. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasada nakati katopi. So this is our great fortune, to be at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. So for some reason I got into that last part about the orders of a Param Guru, but I just think it's very important. I think it's very important. It can't turn into something sentimental, and that's what I appreciate about Simhachalam. It doesn't seem that, it seems you're very straight and direct and paka, proper. So Hare Krishna, I appreciate that about Simhachalam Dharm. Hare Krishna, any questions or comments or? Yeah, sorry if I spoke on a bit.
But I have like one question about like the last point where we talk about we have to what to say? Erhalten consists
To keep, sustain.
Yes, to sustain like the rules and regulations given by Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Not only the four, but like in general. But at the same time, like spiritual life is something dynamic. And you can see like Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta, they had like, according to their time, different changes. Yeah. For instance, Bhakti Siddhanta preached with radio and so on, with so many things, which was a invention by him.
Yes.
And so maybe you can say something about like to keep the real essence, but at the same time to be not static. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't contradict or replace what Srila Prabhupada has implemented. The thing is that Srila Prabhupada's position is unique amongst all the acharyas. He is number 32 in the line. But he has constructed the International Society of Krishna Consciousness to last 10,000 years. So we have found that when there have been serious transgressions as to what Prabhupada wanted, then things haven't gone well for this society. And when the more that we've followed Srila Prabhupada, then the better the society goes. So that's why we don't look to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj for any rules or regulations or further instruction. The reason being is that all future initiating gurus will be under the auspices of Srila Prabhupada. So that's unique in this sampradaya. It's a very unique position. So that means Prabhupada is really the only spiritual master within the sampradaya whose rules are going to apply for the next 10,000 years. Does that make sense? So, but he also made differences, such as he did Brahman initiation with cassette tape. He allowed women to live in the temples. So many things that he introduced.
Yeah.
But that's why it's unique. You see what I'm saying? So, the only situation of real concern is when a initiating spiritual master is saying something which is against Srila Prabhupada. At that point, he will probably be broadly condemned by his god brothers for going against what Prabhupada said. So that's what I'm saying. So there's not that much Spielraum. So there's not much playroom for changing things in Prabhupada society. Do you see what you see why? Do you see what I mean? Do you see why now? Because if someone goes against what Prabhupada says, well, the god brothers are going to pull him up on it, and that's they can't. A guru can't suddenly decide to say, well, okay, it's okay if you don't follow the 4 regs and just follow one. That generally won't be accepted. That won't go down well. They might say, okay, you can do that, but don't do that in ISKCON. I think that, I'm speculating, but one would assume that would be the reaction of the GBC with regard to an issue like that. Was there something more specific? No. But it makes sense, right? It makes sense. You can't replace Prabhupada. Prabhupada's it's his position, it's his society. So he's founder Acharya, he remains the Acharya. That's just our understanding. I mean, there may be another self-effulgent Acharya, but to our understanding, it's Prabhupada's house for the next 10,000 years. Well, 9,500. Any other questions, comments, or auf Deutsch oder? I'll be answering in English, but I can hear it in German. Prabhu? No. Okay. Bhagavad Gita ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, Premanandi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Gabriel.
Diva Joyo